expensive. So more and more now, some of these upper middle class families are doing some bidding with college campuses, and their students are going to their second or third choices instead of their first.
Wow.
Yeah, so here's an example. There's a young student who lives in Silver Spring, Maryland, who her top choice was American University. She got in. Then she also looked at College of Charleston, okay? Much smaller school, private school, but giving her a much better aid package that's merit-based. So she wasn't necessarily going to qualify for lots of need-based financial aid, but merit-based because she had very good grades and very good test scores. She was going to be kind of a big fish in a small pond in Charleston versus at AU, you know, she would blend in like everybody else. There was nothing really special about her, nor were they giving her much money. And so that family made the choice, like many families are today, to go to an institution that may be a little less prestigious, but it won't cost as much money.
What is that travel company, online travel company, that they talk about? You bid your own airfare that you're going to pay.
Priceline.
Priceline. So this is like becoming a Priceline. Can be a good business for a technology company if they want to take over. It'll be one of those blind things. You know, you will not know which college accepted you, but the cost is only $40,000 or $50,000.
No, but the families are really like calling up an institution and saying, hey, we're getting this much from this other college. How much will you give us?
That's right.
Can you imagine?
Wonderful idea. You know, we talked about on this show about Amazon that does not pay sales tax because it's an internet business. Congress passed a law 20 years ago where it said we will not tax anything that develops out of internet. Now, you know the retail industry employs a lot of people. Does Amazon, who's doing $34 billion, do they create jobs? But you go to Walmart, you buy a television set, it costs you $214. Amazon sells you for $194 or $198. Mm-hmm. Well, the discrepancy is Walmart pays taxes to the state, hires a lot of people, whereas Amazon only got warehouse workers, not too much employment there, and they don't pay sales tax. They tell everybody, you pay your own state tax. We're not going to pay your state tax. Mm-hmm. What is happening? They are also playing state against state. We'll come to your state, we'll create 200 jobs, but we're not going to pay sales tax. And the states, because they need the jobs, they're going to give up.
Right.
So Senator Durbin, he feels this is a national problem. I totally like that. He says national problem because some counties will charge you 4.5%, some 5.5%, some 6%, and so on and so forth. Everywhere there is a retail industry, but Amazon is not there. So Amazon, looking at the final ruling coming out, or looking at the bill coming out of Senator Durbin's office, changed its colors.
Oh, really?
They really now like it because they feel they want to change the model of their business from being warehouse 1 or 2 in a state. They now want to be like Best Buy. They want to be like Walmart, and they want to do retail like that. So they feel that they have a model somewhere between Amazon on the internet and Walmart on the main street.
Huh.
So they're coming around, because I really feel pretty bad for the states. They lose $34 billion. They don't pay a sales tax. I mean, amazing. And they get breaks whenever they say, we want to open a warehouse in your district. We want tax breaks. Well, this is one way of skinning the cat, you know, so to speak. This is the most interesting divorce story you will ever hear. A couple in New York, very well off, you know, they decided to separate, divorce. So the woman says, look, I will take the cash in the house. And he said, well, I have a lot of money in Madoff investments, so I'll take that. Well, you know, 2 years later, they found out Madoff made away with all his money.
Wow.
Now, he's a big shot lawyer in a big law firm. So he informed his wife that, look, we need to redo this contract because this particular contract, we both made a mutual mistake. I did not realize that this will be worth 0 in 2 years. Neither did you. So let's get together, redo it. Now the wife said, wait a second. That was a decision you made. I mean, you're the one who said Madoff is going to give you more money, so you want to stick with them. And we signed a contract, 2-year-old contract. You can't redo a contract. Well, the lawyer, being a big-time lawyer, has now taken the case all the way up to the highest court in New York. Of course, they will hear. But it's a very interesting lawsuit from the point of view, how do you redo a contract? How do you do that? But at the same time, you got to realize what he got was fat zero. What she got was everything. So he says, no, you got to come back. The entire New York bar arena, the lawyers, they're all talking. They're saying, well, if he wins this case, imagine the number of redos that we have to do on contracts. To me, it is the most amazing lawsuit.
Well, I think what's going on here is the fear of the precedent that this will set.
Yes.
As you said, people going back and saying, oh, well, things didn't turn out the way I expected them to when I signed this, so can we redo that? I don't much care for what happened a few years after the fact, so I want to step back in time. And, of course, if one person agrees and says, I think that's fair, they can always redo it. But chances are, like in the situation you just explained, one individual will say, sorry, this is what we agreed to. You took a risk when you signed that contract.
If he was very nice to his wife, she might have said, okay, honey, I have $5 million, so I'll give you $2.5 million. But do you think it'll ever happen?
Well, I think it depends on the situation. Clearly, in this story, going to the highest court in New York, not so much. Listen to this headline. 5 things we get wrong about India. Acclaimed journalist and writer Patrick French is writing a new book on modern India. And in the Daily Beast, he has this short piece about a few things that Westerners seem to get wrong when they assume things about India. For example, setting people straight, India is now both rich and poor. There's a perception still that exists about the poverty in India, very real, no doubt about that. But just as there is extreme poverty, there is also extreme wealth. There are many, many multimillionaires, billionaires even, in India. When you think about a company like Airtel with all of the cell phone subscribers and internet subscribers, there's a lot going on in terms of wealth as well. So there's one example. Another one is this perception of India stealing American jobs. We talk about that often on this show. India's economic rise is not eating American jobs, is one of the assumptions he debunks. So we think about Airtel, which I just mentioned, and Sunil Mittal, right? He realized he would not be able to build the infrastructure for the telecom industry at the rate that he needed to, right, for his company. So he reverse outsourced, very interesting term, I didn't know that one, giving work to foreign companies like Nokia, IBM, Ericsson. And so instead of an Indian company taking the jobs from richer countries, it was creating business for them. So, you have to look at it in a more dynamic way. The black and white, you're taking and we're losing,